I didn't notice it at first. That's what keeps circling in my mind tonight, like some cruel little echo. I didn't notice. I've been up here at the station every night this week. Same booth, same signal, same soft hum of the soundboard under my fingers. The world's always got strange news, strange calls, strange lights on the horizon if you stare long enough. So when the first caller mentioned it, this redness in the moon, I chalked it up to another oddity. An eclipse maybe, a trick of the eye. He said it looked thicker than blood, whatever that meant. I laughed it off on air, told him he probably needed better glasses or less whiskey. He didn't laugh back, just said, "It's not the color that's wrong, it's the way it moves." Then he hung up. That was 3 nights ago. Since then, I've had at least a dozen more call-ins, all describing the same thing. At first gently, almost reverently. "Have you seen the moon tonight?" One whispered, like she was afraid to say it too loud. Another last night said it wasn't just red, it was glowing, but not in the way light's supposed to. He said it felt like it was breathing. I still didn't believe it. I mean, come on, it's just a moon, right? Same face it's always had. Cold, distant, comforting in its way, but something kept tugging at me. So during the 2 a.m. music block, I stepped outside. And there it was, hung low and swollen above the tree line. The moon looked wrong. Not just red, not just full. It was too red, too heavy, like someone had dipped it in dark paint and hung it back in the sky without drying it first. And I swear to you, standing there, half shivering in my jacket, nothing but coyotes and the soft buzz of sodium lights around me. I thought I saw it shimmer, not like a star, not twinkling. It pulsed. Once, a slow, lazy throb of color, a heartbeat in the sky. I blinked, looked again. It was still, but I felt different. That's the hard part to explain. It wasn't fear. Not yet. It was more like being watched, but not by something menacing. It felt like the moon had noticed me. Like after all these years of ignoring us, it was finally paying attention. I came back inside and sat at the board without turning the mic back on. Just watched the levels dance. Let the needle float in silence. I couldn't bring myself to speak. Didn't want to break whatever had just settled into the air. The messages keep coming in. One guy said his dog refuses to go outside after dark now. Another swears he saw something dripping from the edge of the moon. Real slow, like a leak in the roof you can't plug. I don't know what's happening up there, but I know this. The moon has changed, and whatever it's doing now, it's only just begun. I thought it would pass. That's how these things usually go, right? Some strange atmospheric quirk, a visual illusion, maybe a bit of dust kicked up in the upper layers of the atmosphere. Something boring. Something science can wrap in a sentence or two and explain away before breakfast. But it didn't pass. That red didn't fade. I've been checking the sky every night since that first one, and it's only gotten worse. Deeper, more vivid, like it's thickening, not just in color, but in presence. I don't know how to describe it other than to say it feels like the moon is leaning closer. Not visibly, it's still out there in the sky where it belongs, but when I look at it, I feel it. Pushing into the edges of things, into the space around my body. Like its glow isn't just light now, like it's pressure. And it's not just me. The calls have taken a turn. Last night, someone said the moonlight left a stain on her carpet. Not a shadow, an actual stain. She'd opened the curtains just to check on her garden, and by morning, there was a dark red ring on the floor. It didn't wash out. Another caller said his outdoor lights flicker when the moon's overhead. Only when it's full in the window. He swore the bulbs aren't the issue. Said he's replaced them 3 times, checked the wiring. Nothing helps. It's like the moon's pulling electricity out of the air, he said, like it's feeding off it. That one chilled me more than I want to admit. Because tonight, I saw the same thing at the station. The booth light, the one right above me, the one that's burned steady for 5 years, flickered. Not in a casual way. It blinked rhythmically, like it was syncing to something, a pattern, almost a pulse. I turned it off, sat here in the dark with the red glow slipping through the high window like syrup. And the longer I sat, the more I could feel it. That pressure again, except now it was accompanied by sound. Not external, not from the equipment or outside the booth. This was internal, in my ears and my chest. A low hum, steady, not quite vibration, but close. Like the moon had found a frequency, and my bones were starting to resonate with it. It's subtle, but it's there. I got an email earlier, no subject, no body, just a photo. A house on a hill, silhouetted against the moon. But the moon wasn't right. It was red, yes, but not smooth. Its surface looked swollen, mottled, like there were layers beneath it that had never shown themselves before. One looked like it had veins. I know how that sounds. I know it's insane, but if I'm honest, a part of me wasn't surprised. Something about that image felt inevitable. Because it's not just that the moon's red now. It's that it's active. It's watching. It's changing. And whatever's coming next isn't going to be soft. It's going to leave a mark. One we might not be able to scrub off. Not from our homes. Not from our eyes. Not from our minds. I don't think it's light anymore. Not entirely. The way it moves. If you've been watching like I have, you'll know what I mean. There's a thickness to it now. Like the moon isn't just casting light, but spilling something. It's hard to see with the naked eye, at least at first. But if you stare long enough, especially when it crests just past the tree line, there's this drift. Not quite fog, not quite fluid, something between. It's like watching a slow leak in the roof of the sky. I got a call tonight from a guy in Arizona, retired astronomy teacher. You could hear the tightness in his throat, like he was fighting against a lifetime of scientific instinct just to admit what he'd seen. He set up his old telescope 2 nights ago, pointed it at the moon like he'd done 1,000 times before. But this time it wasn't right. He said it looked wet, not just discolored, wet, like something was pooling across its surface. He told me he watched for over an hour, snapping photos through the scope. And in each frame, the shadows shifted just slightly, not because the light changed, but because something moved, something flowed. I asked him to send the photos. He did. I've looked at them 20 times, and I still don't know what I'm seeing. The craters are there, sure, but they look deeper now, softer, like they're filling in with something thick. One of them, it's hard to be sure, looks like it's weeping. A fine red line stretching out across the ridge like a fracture. But what really got me, the last photo, there's something trailing downward. It's faint, a thread of red barely visible, like a vein unspooling in slow motion. It hangs beneath the moon, stretching downward, too fine to be atmosphere, too precise to be cloud. He said, I think it's dripping, and I can't stop thinking about that word, because it fits. When I stepped outside earlier, just to feel the air, I caught something on my arm. A smear, dark red, tacky like old wine. I looked up. The sky was clear. Nothing above me, but that pulsing red disk. And yet there it was. A single smear like something had brushed against me. It didn't burn. It didn't evaporate. It just was. I brought it back in. Tried wiping it onto a tissue. It spread like oil, no smell, no real weight. But when I left it under the desk light for a few minutes, it started to shimmer. Just slightly, like it was alive. I haven't touched it since. I don't know what the moon is leaking or why. I don't know if it's meant for us or if we're just in a way. But I do know it's not natural. This isn't reflection. This isn't illusion. This is a substance. Something crossing the boundary between out there and in here. And I think we're already under it. Every night it hangs above us, closer than it used to feel, fuller than it should be. It's not rising anymore. It's descending, bleeding. And soon, we might not be able to look away. I started keeping a towel by the booth door. Not for sweat, not for spills, for the stuff that comes in when I step outside after moonrise. It's not constant, not even heavy, but it's there. A kind of mist, sometimes a fine drizzle, and sometimes it collects on your skin like oil. I've begun calling it rain out of convenience, but that's not what it is. It's the moon, leaking. Last night, I walked to the edge of the gravel lot behind the station. I stood there for 10 minutes, not moving, just watching the moon and letting the sky settle on my shoulders. When I came back inside, there were red specks on my sleeves. Little dots, perfect circles, too dark to be water and too sticky to be dew. I set the towel on the counter. Haven't washed it yet. Part of me doesn't want to. Part of me wants to see what happens when it dries. But it's not drying. It's been 12 hours, and it's still damp. Still smells faintly like copper and something else, something sweet, sour, wrong. I can't name it. And every time I try, my mouth goes dry. I've had callers tell me it started to affect their plants. That's the newest pattern. A woman from Tennessee said her garden, which used to bloom in morning shade, now only opens at night, petals wide, straining upward under the red. She said the leaves tremble, not from wind, but from something else. They're reaching. Another caller, a man in Colorado, swears his backyard moss has started growing faster than his grass. It pulses, he said, only when the moon's overhead. It looks like it's breathing. And then he asked me something I haven't stopped thinking about. Do you think it's seeding us? That word, seeding, like the rain, isn't random. Like the drips are delivering something. That this isn't just atmospheric bleed through. It's targeted, measured, intentional. I try to brush it off. Told him he was probably just overwatering or watching too many movies. But as I said it, I looked over at the towel again. Still damp, still red. The booth windows got streaks now. I wiped it clean last week, but every night after moonrise they come back. Tiny rivulets down the glass, even though it doesn't rain, even though the sky is clear. Like the moon is pressing something invisible through the atmosphere, gravity, pressure, fluid, I don't know. One thing's for sure, it's not weather. It's coming down, and we're not waterproof. There's a change in the way night feels now. Not just darker, heavier, like the shadows have mass. I stepped outside earlier and heard a sound, just a tiny one, like a droplet hitting gravel. I looked down. There was nothing, but I swear something hit my shoe and rolled off. I didn't look for it. Not this time. I've learned that when the moon starts dripping, it's better not to pick up what it leaves behind, because I think we're just the surface it's testing, and we're absorbing more than we realize. We've always treated the moon like it's just scenery, a backdrop, something passive and beautiful, dependable in its silence. But that's not what it is now. Not anymore, because what it's touching, what it's changing, isn't just the sky or the ground. It's us, and everything else that used to follow the rules. The calls tonight weren't panicked. Not like I expected. They were calm. Too calm. Descriptions spoken like dreams, not emergencies. I had 4 different people tell me their pets wouldn't come inside after dark. Not out of fear, out of fixation. A dog that used to panic at thunder now sits in the yard for hours, staring up, eyes wide and unblinking, refusing food or sound. A cat that claws at the door until it can lie flat under the open sky, mouth open like it's trying to drink in the light. One woman said her parrot started repeating phrases it had never been taught. They're under the leaves, it kept saying. They're under the leaves. She doesn't even have trees. And it's not just the animals. I got an email with photos, no message, no subject line, just a series of high-res, time-stamped shots of a sunflower field. The first 2 images looked normal. The third showed the sunflowers twisted 90 degrees, facing the moon. That was the night the bleeding started. In the 4th image, the petals had curled inward, and their heads were bowed, not toward the soil, but to each other, like they were conferring. I stared at those pictures for a long time. But it's not the plants that keep me up tonight. It's the crops. There's a caller, old farmer, voice like sandpaper. He's phoned in a few times before, usually just to gripe about weather and taxes. But tonight he was different. Quiet. Measured. He said the corn is growing too fast. Said the stalks are thicker, veined with something dark. Said he cut one open and it bled. Not sap. Not juice. Blood. Real blood. Then he said this. I swear I saw something inside it. Not a worm. Something with form. Too smooth. Too still. He wouldn't say more after that. I tried calling him back later. Number disconnected. I think the moonlight's doing something to the biology of the world. Not just mutating, rewriting. There's a theory I read once, late at night, about how life on Earth only developed because of the moon's gravitational pull, how it stirred the oceans, set the rhythm of tides, created a kind of planetary heartbeat. So what happens if the moon changes that rhythm? What if the heartbeat reverses? What if it starts pushing something into us instead of pulling? I went outside earlier, just for a breath. The trees along the edge of the parking lot looked taller. Not by much, but enough that I noticed. And they weren't swaying in the wind. They were leaning. Toward the sky. Toward the moon. It was like everything living had started answering to a new command. One they didn't question. One they couldn't resist. And the worst part? I'm not sure I'm immune to it either. I grew up near the ocean. Spent a lot of nights lying on the beach, watching the moon pull at the tides like it was breathing through water. There was always something reassuring in it, that rhythm, the tide comes in, the tide goes out. Predictable. Steady. Like the Earth's lungs moving in sync with something bigger than itself. But not anymore. The ocean's not breathing right. Tonight, I got a call from a man down on the Gulf Coast. He sounded shaken, not scared exactly, just confused, like someone trying to describe a nightmare they haven't fully woken from. Said the tide came in late this afternoon, but it never went back out. It just kept rising. Not violently, slowly, as if the ocean wasn't crashing in, but crawling. By midnight, the water had reached the road. No storm, no wind, just red-tinted water creeping through the streets. He said it didn't smell like salt anymore. He didn't say what it did smell like, just that it was wrong. And then his voice broke, and I heard him whisper. Some of them walked in. They didn't fight it. They just walked. I don't know who they were. I didn't get to ask. He hung up. A few minutes later, someone else called, different coast, same story. The tide didn't follow the charts. It pulled in during what should have been low. Pulled hard. Fast. Boats unmoored themselves. Docks snapped like toothpicks. One woman said she saw what looked like a whirlpool, perfectly still, sitting in the middle of the bay. Just spinning. Not drawing things in, not creating waves. Just turning. Like a key. And in every case, they said the same thing. The water looked red. Not blood. Not dye. Not reflection. Just red. Like the ocean had mirrored the moon. Like whatever the moon's bleeding is making its way into the sea. That's the part that terrifies me. Not the visual, not the change in behavior. It's the idea that the moon is no longer just a distant light in the sky. It's a source, a faucet, something pouring itself into the natural systems we depend on. And the Earth's not resisting. It's absorbing. I turn on the old tide tracker we've got in the station's weather console. It hasn't been updated in years, but it still runs the basics. High tide, low tide, phases, the usual. Tonight, it flashed something I've never seen before. Sync loss. Lunar effect error. I don't know what that means, but it feels right, because nothing's in sync anymore. And if the oceans, the biggest, strongest thing we've ever known, are swaying to a different rhythm now, then it's not just plants or animals that are being rewritten. It's the whole planet. Everything that used to listen to gravity is turning its ear towards something else. Something warmer, wetter, redder, and maybe hungrier. I went to the bathroom during a song break. Just routine where it should have been. I wasn't expecting anything new. I wasn't even thinking about the moon. I just needed a minute away from a mic, away from the ringing phones, the red streaks sliding down the window panes, the endless hum of this place breathing with me. I splashed some water on my face, leaned on the sink, and looked up at the mirror. That's what happened. I saw something that didn't move when I did. At first I thought I was just tired, too much time without sleep, too much red seeping through my retinas. But I tested it. I turned my head slowly, very slowly, and the reflection followed a beat behind. Not like a glitch, not like delay, like hesitation. It was beat out almost, but not quite. My eyes were wrong, a little too wide, the skin around them too smooth. There was a shine to them that I haven't seen in my own face since I was a child. Like I hadn't aged, like I hadn't lived. I blinked. It didn't. I turned away, but not before catching the way its mouth twitched. Not a smile, a shiver. I locked the bathroom door behind me and came back to the booth without turning around. And now I can't stop wondering, is it the moonlight? Is it reaching inside buildings now? I've had 3 callers tonight say they've covered every window in their house, nailed up blankets, taped tinfoil. Still, the light finds them. A woman whispered, barely audible over the static, that her husband's skin glowed red for hours, even though they hadn't left the house in days. She says she watched it move under his skin. He didn't seem to notice. Then there was the man who looked out the window and saw himself standing in the street. Same jacket, same posture, looking up at the moon with a tilt of the head he recognized. The only difference was the face. It was blank, smooth, empty. He said, "I think the moon is copying us, but it's not very good at it yet. That one's been echoing in me ever since." Is that what I saw in the mirror? An early version? A draft? What happens when it gets better? I've always found comfort in reflections, in the stillness of a mirror that confirms, yes, you're still you. You haven't disappeared. You haven't become something else. But now I don't trust them. I turned off the lights in the booth to stop catching my own shadow in the glass. I keep the monitors dim. I don't want to see anything that might be watching me back. Because the moon is no longer content to just shine. It's observing. And whatever it's learning, it's starting to imitate. And if we keep looking too long, maybe we'll start imitating it. They've started gathering in the park. The one by the old train station. The place people used to go for flea markets and outdoor concerts. That's where they've been going every night since the moon turned. I pass them sometimes on my way to the booth, sitting perfectly still on the benches, in the grass, even on the swings. All of them facing the sky. No music, no signs, no speaking, just faces tilted upward, bathed in that deep, pulsing red. Tonight, I stopped for a minute, just watched from a distance. There must have been 40, maybe 50 of them, more than the night before. A few stood perfectly still with their arms raised like antennas, soaking it in. One woman was kneeling in the mud, her mouth moving in silent rhythm, eyes so wide I swear they didn't blink once the whole time I watched. They're not homeless, not lost. Some still wear office shoes, work IDs dangling from lanyards. Some have name tags. Some are probably driving home from a shift before they change course. One guy, a kid, really couldn't have been more than 20. He wore a red hoodie, soaked darker at the sleeves, and stood at the edge of the group like a sentinel. Not part of it, not apart from it. He saw me, didn't smile, didn't wave, just stared, and he pointed upward, not at the moon, at the space around it. I didn't look. I turned and came here to the mic like I always do. But it's getting harder to pretend I'm just here to play music and read weather updates. These people, they're not random. They come back night after night, like pilgrims to something holy. I've heard some of them refer to it as the bleeding eye. Others call it the true light. I read a flyer someone slid under the station door. It was handwritten in red ink, almost too neat, like printed by machine. The headline read, "We've waited long enough." Beneath that, it just said, "It sees who is ready." And I think that's what this is. Not everyone's afraid of the moon. Some are welcoming it, letting it in. They walk into the glow like it's a baptism, like they're being marked, chosen, revealed. And I hate to say it, but I understand the appeal. There's something magnetic about it. I felt it myself, last night just standing outside. The red isn't harsh, it's warm, inviting. Makes the dark feel less lonely. Makes you want to open your chest and say, "Come in, make me yours." But I didn't, not yet, because something deep in me, maybe older than fear, maybe just instinct knows that whatever the moon is asking for, it takes more than it gives. And those people in the park, they've already given it something. You can see it in their eyes. They're not watching the moon. They're listening to it. She called at 3:14 a.m., just after I'd finished logging another report about the moonlight seeping through basement windows. Her voice was steady, clear, not trembling like most of the others, not frantic. She didn't introduce herself. She didn't have to. "I was born under a red moon," she said. I paused, waiting for her to explain. Maybe she meant an eclipse, a harvest moon, some astrological thing. But no, she meant this. This red, this bleeding. I could hear it in her voice. "My mother went into labor during a storm," she said. "There was no electricity. The sky glowed red through the trees, and the midwife said the light looked thick like paint, that it dripped. I don't remember that night, obviously, but I've always felt different, like I've been waiting for this, for it to come back." She said the bleeding moon doesn't hurt her like it hurts others. She doesn't get the headaches, doesn't feel the pressure in her bones. She walks barefoot under it and says it feels like stepping into warm water. She said her dreams are clearer now. She said it's not new. It's not an invasion, she whispered. It's a return. I didn't know what to say. She told me her family kept journals, old ones. Passed down. She read from one. I couldn't catch all the words, but I remember one phrase exactly. "The moon will bleed to remember us." Not warn, not punish. Remember, like it's been sleeping, like we were forgotten. She said some people are immune to what's coming. Not by luck, by lineage. That the blood isn't just dripping, it's calling itself back. Gathering pieces, waking up what was buried. I asked if she meant the people who stare into the moonlight for hours. The ones in the park. The ones whispering in their sleep. She said no. They're only receivers, she said. They're new. They've been chosen, but they weren't made for it. I asked what that made her. She said, I'm proof. Then she said something I didn't understand. A word that wasn't a word. It slid out of her mouth like it belonged to something older than language. And then the line went dead. I didn't write it down. Couldn't even if I tried. It vanished from my head the moment I took off the headset. Like my mind refused to hold it. I've been trying to shake the feeling that the moon is harvesting something. That this red light, this rain, this pull on the sea and the plants and our skin, it's all a kind of collection. A ritual. A cycle. But what if it's not taking? What if it's remembering? Calling back its own? I looked at my birth records tonight, just to be sure. And the thing is, I don't remember what the sky looked like when I was born. But I think the moon might. It's inside now. I've been trying to convince myself otherwise, but I can't. The light. It's no longer outside the windows or slipping through cracks in the blinds. It's inside the building, inside the walls, like it's saturated the wood, soaked into the floor tiles. Even with every shade drawn, every bulb dimmed, there's still a red glow clinging to the corners of the booth. And it's not just light anymore. It pulses, not fast, slow, like a breath held too long, like something trying to remember the rhythm of being alive. I sat here for a full minute just watching the glow pool beneath the soundboard, wondering how long it's been there. Maybe it was always there. Maybe I just couldn't see it until now. I've started hearing things during the moonrise. Low tones, right on the edge of frequency, like a radio trying to tune itself to something just beyond the dial. It's not static. It's not music. It's more like whispering, but not from outside, from within the glow. And it's always the same moment, right when the moon crests the edge of the window. That's when it begins. I tried recording it, but the playback comes back clean. No hum, no tone, just me breathing and the creak of the chair. Whatever it is, it doesn't want to be captured. It's for the living, for the present, like it knows how to stay out of memory. I took a call tonight from a man who said his walls were breathing, not metaphorically. He said the red light seeped in through the ceiling and began to pulse across the paint, spreading like mold, except it moved in and out. A rhythm, a pulse. He said his kitchen smelled like iron and lavender. Said when he touched the wall, it was warm. I asked what he did next. He said, I pressed my ear to it. I think something inside was listening to me. Then he hung up. I sat here for a while after that, staring at the foam paneling on the walls, thinking about what it means to live inside a building that no longer belongs entirely to you. That's what this light does. It doesn't ask permission. It binds, seeps, claims. Another caller said she tried to sleep in the basement, thinking it might block the moonlight. But the light was already there, not shining, just existing, like it had leaked into the concrete. She said her dreams smelled red. That one stopped me cold, because I've had that too. The color leaking into sleep. The sense that the light isn't just illuminating things anymore. It's becoming part of them. Embedding. Not with violence. With purpose. I think we're being prepared. Molded into something more receptive. Because if this glow really is part of the moon, if it's reaching across that distance to wrap us in itself, then it's not just an effect. It's a connection. A bond. And the longer we stay in it, the more it remembers who we were meant to be. I turned off every light in the station an hour ago. The room is still red, still breathing. There's a name for it now, at least among the callers, moonblind. I didn't come up with it. It just started appearing in conversations, one call after another. Someone dropped it into a sentence like it was already common knowledge, and it stuck. It's not blindness in the way we normally think about it. It's not about darkness. It's about red. Too much of it. Constant. Seeping into the edges of your vision until everything looks the same shade of rust. I've had 3 people in the last day describe it the same way. You wake up and you realize your eyes are open, but they're not seeing the world the way they used to. You're not seeing through the light anymore. You're seeing with it. One guy said he couldn't read his own handwriting anymore, even in broad daylight. Said the letters twisted when he looked at them, shimmered like heat mirages. Another woman, a librarian, said she tried to reshelve some books and couldn't understand the titles. Not because they were in another language, but because the language didn't want to be seen. She said, I think the light is choosing what I'm allowed to understand. That one rattled me, because I felt it too. Little things. I've been staring at the clock on the wall for nearly 10 minutes now, and I still can't tell what time it says. The numbers look familiar, but I can't hold them in my mind. They slip, they pulse, and the longer I stare, the more I feel like I'm being watched back. Last night, I dreamed the station had no walls, just glass. The moon hovered over everything, swollen and veined, leaking down onto the floor in ropes of slow-moving light. I looked down and realized my shoes had melted into the ground, roots sprouting from my ankles. When I woke up, I wasn't scared. I was calm, too calm. I looked in the mirror and couldn't see my eyes at first. Just red, not glowing, just red, like the color had flooded my pupils. It faded after a few minutes, but it hasn't left my memory. And when I blink now, sometimes I see a flash of the moon on the inside of my eyelids. One caller said he saw cities on the moon, said he stared too long and started seeing shapes move across the surface. Towers, arches, creatures bending backward as they walked. He wasn't scared either, just amazed. It's not what we thought, he said. It's never been a rock. It's been alive the whole time. We just couldn't see it before. Maybe he's right. Maybe we've never really looked. Maybe the moon's just been waiting for our eyes to adjust. Or maybe it's changing us so that we can see it, finally. Not through telescopes or science, but through transformation. Moonblind. It sounds like a curse. But some of these people, they talk about it like a blessing. Like they've been initiated. And maybe I'm next. Because I haven't looked away in hours. And I don't want to. I've been watching the live feeds. What's left of them? The major observatories have gone quiet. No new posts, no time-lapsed images. Just looping footage of blank skies and a note that says under review. The smaller astronomy forums are still trying, but they're scared. You can hear in their tone, read it between the lines of their posts. They don't understand what they're seeing anymore. And now neither do I. A few hours ago, someone emailed me a video taken from a weather balloon launch over New Mexico. High enough to get clean visuals, high enough to be above the bleed that's taken over our atmosphere. The footage is grainy, rough, but when it pans upward, there it is. The moon. Only it's not the moon we remember. It's not smooth or pale. It's dark, almost maroon. And it's moving, not orbiting, not drifting, pulsing, like it's breathing in space. Like its surface is no longer rock, but something more fluid, more alive. There are swells, rises, and in one shot, near the end of the clip, there's something trailing behind it like vapor or maybe smoke. Awake, and then something drops. I paused the frame a dozen times, zoomed in. It's small, just a speck, but it falls from the lower edge of the moon like a bead of ink slipping from a brush. It doesn't glow. It doesn't catch light. It just falls, down toward us. The clip ends before it lands. Or maybe before it was supposed to land. That's what's new now. This discharge, whatever's bleeding, it's not just light or mood or mind. It's matter. Physical. It's crossing the gap. And we've got no defense for something like that. No name for it. NASA released a single statement before going quiet. Not an explanation. Not even a warning. Just one sentence. It's not just light. Then silence. No follow-up. No broadcast. Just a blackout. Their site loads with a timestamp and a placeholder page, awaiting recalibration. I think they saw something they didn't want to see, or something they couldn't unsee. One of the regulars called in tonight, a woman named Carrie who used to work in a government lab. Never told me which one. She always kept things vague, like she knew what not to say. Tonight, she broke. She said the moon isn't just leaking. It's shedding. That was the word she used. Over and over. It's shedding what it doesn't need anymore. And we were part of that. Then she laughed. Not like something was funny. Like she was breaking. They thought it was a satellite, she said. But it's a womb. And then she hung up. I haven't heard from her since. I keep staring at the sky now, through the cracks in the blinds. And the thing I can't stop thinking about is this. We've always believed we were watching the moon. But what if it's always been watching us? Waiting for the right moment to start sending pieces of itself down. Not to be studied, to be planted. I lost track of time today. Not in the usual way. Not a missed meal or forgetting what day it is. I mean literally. The clock on the wall froze at 6:19 a.m. and never moved again. I thought the battery had died, but my phone said the same. So did the backup digital clock we keep mounted above the console. All of them stuck on 6:19, which should have been sunrise, but the sun never came. I stood outside around 7, just waiting for that thin blue glow to creep up over the pines like it always does, waiting for the shadows to shorten. But the sky stayed deep red, not the color of dawn, more like the thick underside of a bruise. The moon hung directly overhead, massive and unmoving. No arc, no descent. It was just there, watching. I waited for birdsong, for traffic, for anything. Nothing. No rustling in the trees. No tire hum from the highway. Just the silence of a night that forgot to leave. And here's the part one haven't said yet, because I've only just admitted it to myself. I don't think it's night anymore. I think this is the new state of things. There's no more day. And if there's no more day, then what does that make us? One of the listeners, a nurse who used to call in with late shift stories, left me a message this morning, or what I think was morning. She said the patients at her facility started reacting to the moonlight differently. First with agitation, then clarity, then stillness. One of them, a man in a coma for 7 years, opened his eyes and whispered a word she didn't understand. She said he was staring at the ceiling, even though his bed was turned away from the window. I think they're listening, she said. Even the ones who can't move. They know the lights changed. I called her back. The number didn't work. I don't think anyone's sleeping anymore. I haven't in at least 2 days. Not deeply. The body goes through the motions, blinks longer, breathes slower, but no dreams. Just that glow behind the eyes, like the moon pressed itself onto the back of my skull. One caller said he watches the clock tick forward, but resets every few minutes, like time's pacing in a circle. He said it's been 6:19 for 6 hours now, that he ate breakfast 3 times and it still tasted like the first bite. He asked me, if the moon stops moving, does gravity still work? I didn't answer, because I'm not sure it does. We built everything on rhythm. Sun and moon, tide and turn, day and night, work and sleep, all of it orbiting something. But now the center has changed. The moon is fixed, a red eye overhead, refusing to blink, refusing to let us hide. And the longer it holds still, the more everything else begins to drift. Like the world's gears have lost their teeth. And we're still turning, but for no reason at all. I looked out the window an hour ago. The trees haven't moved since yesterday. No sway, no wind, just frozen silhouettes pressed against a sky that refuses to change. And the bleeding? It's heavier now, dripping louder. We used to mark time by the passing of shadows, but now they don't move. And we have no idea how long it's been since anything truly changed. Except us. The signal's thinner now. I don't mean the station's power. Our gears still humming. The dial's all red normal. But something in the air feels strained. Like I'm pushing my voice through syrup. The feedback in my headset has changed too. There's a delay, just a fraction of a second. I speak, and then I hear it come back to me, not quite mine, not quite off. A half tone lower. As if something is trying to copy the signal as I send it. I haven't taken a call in hours. The phone rings sometimes, but when I answer, there's no one there. Just breathing. Soft. Even. Like someone holding the line between us. Not wanting to speak, only to listen. And the red? God, the red is everywhere now. The entire booth glows. No bulbs on. No screens lit. Just the light of the moon filtering through the ceiling itself. It seeps through walls, bleeds through concrete. It has no source anymore. It's become ambient. I looked at my hand a moment ago. The shadows between my fingers have turned maroon. I think the light's inside me now. I don't know how long I've been broadcasting. I lost the track hours ago, maybe days. The sky hasn't shifted. The moon hasn't moved. It's just there, hanging above us like a wound in the sky that forgot how to close. And I've been thinking, what if this wasn't an accident? What if this was always part of the cycle? What if the moon isn't just bleeding? What if it's birthing? What if this endless red, this new biology, this pulsing hum under our skin is the world moving on from us? Not ending, just shedding us. The way a snake leaves its skin in the dirt. I don't feel fear anymore. Not exactly. More like a nama, a hush, I walked to the edge of the parking lot a few minutes ago and just stood there, arms at my sides, head tilted up. The light didn't burn. It welcomed. It reached. And for a moment, I swear I could hear something whispering, not in words but in tone. A long vowel stretched across the stars. A name I don't remember giving myself. I didn't step forward. Not yet, because I wanted to say this first. To whoever's left. If you're still listening, if you're still human, still breathing in the old rhythm, still thinking in the way we used to think, hold on. Not for survival, not for resistance, just a witness. The moon is changing us. It's rewriting what it means to be flesh and thought and memory. It's turning our world into something that might be beautiful or terrible or beyond those words. And maybe that's okay. Maybe not all endings scream. Some just hum. Some just glow. Some just bleed. This is the last broadcast. I don't know if I'll speak again, but if I don't know this, you were heard. You were real. You were remembered beneath the red.